Well, hey guys, it's Dave. Want to connect with you real briefly on some of the things happening in our community right now. It's pretty obvious I don't have the best lighting equipment or audio or video equipment. On top of that, it's raining. But a few days ago, right after our Sunday morning services, I took off on vacation for a few days. And then I became aware of what was happening in our community. Like all of you, I'm heartbroken. I've talked to people from our church, people in our community, I've talked to people in the police department, firefighters, friends of mine of all colors. And I could say one thing that seems to be consistent in all the people I've talked to. Everybody's heartbroken, everybody's devastated, and it just feels hopeless right now. And sadly, this is not unique to our world. Every generation, every community at some point goes through times of suffering and times of difficulty. In fact, 2,500 years ago, the Jewish people went through it. I wrote some of this down. The city of Jerusalem had been destroyed. The temple had been burned to the ground, their place of worship. People had been killed. Homes completely wiped out. Many of the brightest and best of the Jewish citizens were marched off 500 miles away to another city to live in exile for several decades. And it's during that time period that a Jewish prophet by the name of Jeremiah sits down, and he's so heartbroken. And he writes this. He says, "The thought of my suffering and homelessness is bitter beyond words. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. Yet I still dare to hope when I remember this. The faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning." Now, I know all of us are processing what's happening in different ways. We're all emotional because of different things, right? Maybe you've been affected personally. Maybe your business has been affected. Maybe your emotions, you got fear and anxiety. Maybe you just have anger right now and bitterness. But I'm going to ask you to try not to lose hope, because the faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies begin afresh each morning. And so it was during this time period of difficulty for the Jewish people that God speaks in a very clear way. And he says to the Jewish people, work for the peace and prosperity of the city in which you live. He says, get jobs, settle down, make friendships, marry. He says, just live there and work for the prosperity of your city. He says, pray to the Lord for the city, specifically for its welfare, because its welfare will determine your welfare. What a great word of encouragement for us. That if our city can succeed and move forward, our lives can succeed and move forward. So I want to give you just briefly 3 ways we can do that. The first is listen. Right now, everybody wants to give commentary and share opinions and put out posts on what they think of what's going on. And I get it. And I'm not even condemning that or saying it's wrong. I think the very best thing we can do is just listen. Listen to the pain, listen to the hurt. Listen to what people are going through. There's a time to make statements, but sometimes we just need to listen. Number 2 is pray. Now, if you're at a loss on how to pray, you can go to our Facebook page, our Instagram account. We have a sample prayer there. But the bottom line is whenever I pray, I try to pray against the backdrop of God's greatness. God, you are faithful. You are holy. You care about us. You are our shelter. And I just say, because of that, I make these requests to you. And the very first request ought to be, God, break my heart over what breaks your heart. Help me to see the racism and the prejudice and the anger and the anxiety inside of me. Lord, deal with me first and foremost. And then I pray for the citizens of our community. I pray for the leaders of our community. Lord, give them wisdom in helping us move forward as a city. Lord, I pray for all of us that we would learn how to build bridges and not walls. Now, at our services this week, on both Wednesday, August 26th and Sunday, August 30th, we're going to take time for prayer and reflection. It's going to be part of our service. And so I encourage you to join us. You can also join us online. We'll do that as well online. So we got to listen, we've got to pray. And then finally, I'm going to ask us to act. If we are for our city, it means that we are going to serve our community. And I know several of you have already stepped out and are doing that. I'm going to ask you to stay engaged with social media and just be listening for opportunities to serve. As a church organization, what we're going to do is we're going to stay connected. We've already been talking to community leaders. We've already been talking to people who are connected with nonprofits, and we'll post opportunities as they become available. Guys, Kenosha doesn't need Jesus more than ever before, but our eyes have been opened to our need for Jesus like never before. Let's pray for our city. Let's be light in the midst of darkness. There's actually a song that came out like 11 or 12 years ago by Chris Tomlin that talks about God of the city. I'd actually encourage you, Google it, listen to it, and just know that God is for our city and he will continue to do great things. Let's not lose hope.